Yes, I
Okay,
can.
now I would think that if I don't do anything, I should be able to hear you by just, or speak normally.
Yeah,
That's what I started off yesterday, but somewhere it dropped off. So I
it sh
just,
it works perfectly now. I run into these same kinds of problems intermittently. It is frustrating. I get it.
yeah,
I
might be
really
my
do.
internet connection or my phone connection too, but I
I mean,
didn't
there's a
get the message that
chance.
I had a weak link or anything, or
Right.
telling me to move to a better destination or reception area. Okay, well,
Forget.
we'll see what happens.
All right. That sounds great. Oh, I already put some in mine. I did. Good morning, Carolyn. How are you? Hmm. I didn't have any appointments this morning, so I just quickly made one so nobody else comes up automatically. We have to invite everybody up. Screwed up.
I can handle it.
Dad, did you see about Linda's hand?
No.
Right. She had an accident yesterday. She's okay,
Mm.
and it looked terrible last night, but this morning she posted a picture. It doesn't look too bad.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
So reach out,
Where is
check
that?
out her
Okay.
face, all on Facebook, man. She
Thank you.
bled live. It's crazy.
Mm.
Yep, because because I didn't have any appointments, and I did just quickly put myself in. It's not, but it is what it is, right?
Tis what it is.
There we go.
Good morning, Bob.
Good
Good.
morning, Adriana.
Good
And
morning, Tom, Caroline. Yes, Bob. I saw that yesterday about Linda. It was her left hand. Um, she cut like all the fingers. She has cuts in all her fingers. I don't know what she was handling. She was trimming some bushes in her, and something happened, and she had all her fingers
mm,
hurt. But she was in the hospital when Lee called her. Well, wrote her.
yeah.
Sorry. So I guess it will be fine. Only some stitches, I guess.
Hey Tom, I've got all the recordings ready for you. This one, I when I put it in really quickly, I forgot to turn the replays on. If you'll just help me remember, I can pull the audio out of the stream. And sorry if the the late setup made it hard for anybody to find the room, but we wouldn't know if we didn't find them. Anyway, I'm ready to read lesson 101. I hope you guys are ready for a great day. Let's go.
Amen.
God's will for me is perfect happiness. That sounds great to me. Why did the music stop? Yeah, somebody muted me by accident. All right, you moderators. Don't be messing with me now. Oh my God, Tom, I love your shirt. Tom's wearing a fantastic shirt. It says Yoda, best dad ever. Oh, dude, that's awesome. I love that. Phenomenal. All right, if you guys are missing out on the stream, you're missing out on the stream. I'm telling you, the video is back. That's right, the spirit of the mountain. The spirit of the mountain. All right, I think I got all things set up and going, and I'm ready to go. You guys ready to hear? All right. Lesson 101. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Okay. Oh, it is too loud. I didn't realize I had my volume down that much. I got it, honey. There we go. Got the music at the right level. All right. I think we've got everything the way it's supposed to be. Let's see. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Today, we will continue with the theme of happiness. Always something. Okay. All right. That's my fault. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Today we will continue with the theme of happiness. This theme of happiness is a key idea in understanding what salvation means. You still believe salvation asks for suffering as penance for your sins. This is not so. Yet you must think that salvation asks for suffering as penance for your sins so long as you believe that sin is real and that God's Son can sin. If sin is real, then punishment is just, and punishment cannot be escaped. We're all doomed. If sin is real, salvation thus cannot be purchased, but through suffering. If sin is real, then happiness must be an illusion, for sin and happiness cannot both be true. Shoot. Though sinful warrant only death and pain, and it is this suffering that those who believe they have sinned asked for. For the sinful, no death and pain waits for them, and death and pain will seek the sinful out, find them somewhere, sometime, in some form that evens the account they owe to their God of judgment. The sinful would escape the God of judgment in their fear, and yet this God of judgment will pursue. The sinful cannot escape from the ego's God of punishment. If sin is real, salvation must be pain. Pain is the cost of sin, and suffering can never be escaped if sin is real. If sin is real, salvation must be feared. For salvation will kill, but slowly taking everything away, before salvation grants the welcome boon of death to victims who are little more than bones before salvation is appeased. If sin is real, this God of judgment's wrath is boundless, merciless, but wholly just. If sin is real, who would seek out such a savage punishment? If sin is real, who would not flee salvation and attempt in every way he could to drown the voice which offers such savage punishment as salvation? Those who believe they have sinned? Maybe. Why would those who believe they have sinned try to listen and accept this God of judgment offering suffering and death? If sin is real, salvation is offering death and meted out in cruel form to match the vicious wishes in which sin is born. If sin is real, salvation has become your bitter enemy and the curse of God upon you who have crucified God's Son. You need the practice periods today. The exercises that God's will for me is perfect happiness teach sin is not real, and that all you believe must come from sin will never happen. For these imagined effects of sin are not real, since they have no cause. Accept atonement with an open mind, which cherishes no lingering belief that you have made a devil of God's Son. There is no sin. We practice with this thought that there is no sin as often as we can today. Because this thought that there is no sin is the basis for today's idea that God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for you is perfect happiness because there is no sin, and suffering is causeless. Joy is just, and pain is but the sign that your split minds have misunderstood yourself to be a sinner. Fear not the will of God, but turn to the will of God in confidence that the will of God will set you free from all the consequences sin has wrought in your ego's feverish imagination. Say, God's will for me is perfect happiness. There is no sin, therefore sin has no consequence. So you should start your practice periods and then attempt again to find the joy these thoughts that God's will for me is perfect happiness and there is no sin will introduce into your mind. Give these 5 minutes gladly to remove the heavy load of guilt you lay upon yourself with the insane belief that sin is real. Today's escape from the madness that sin is real. Today's escape is from the madness that sin is real. You are set on
Again,
freedoms. Did I miss it again? Today, you're right. Today, escape from the madness that sin is real. Thanks, Papa. You are set on freedom's road. And now today's idea that God's will for me is perfect happiness brings wings to speed you on and hope to go still faster to the waiting goal of peace. There is no sin. Remember this today, that there is no sin, and tell yourself as often as you can, God's will for me is perfect happiness. This is the truth, because there is no sin. And that's lesson 101 out of Understanding a Course in Miracles workbook lessons. How to end blame, shame, and guilt and fear with love and forgiveness. Thanks for writing that, Tom. And now I'll read through the notes. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Lesson 101 is God's will for me is perfect happiness. Yesterday, we asked the question, do you see yourself as God's treasure or as God's mistake? In the parable about the prodigal son, the son saw himself as a sinner. He perceived that by taking his inheritance and wasting it, he had wronged his father, and therefore was ashamed and feared to return to his father's home. He believed that he had to struggle and suffer in the world as penance for his decision to waste his inheritance on wine, women, and song. Ugh, if I had a dime for every time I did that. In an effort to obtain happiness outside himself, he ultimately realized he had been happiest when he freely followed his father's will. Dad, would you take me back home if I came home and I'd spent all my inheritance? Cat got his tongue. His father's will had only been that his son be happy. All the lavish gifts that his father hath bestowed upon that son when he had been living in his father's home was his father's unconditional love, which was the prodigal son's true inheritance. The purchases that the money had brought the prodigal son were fleeting and did not bring the son the happiness he had envisioned. They were external and did not last or replace the happiness that unconditional love truly brings. With his inheritance spent, the son was forced to struggle to earn his livelihood. Eventually, he made a wise decision to return home rather than continue to live the life he had created for himself. Separated from his father, the life the boy had created was a world that brought him pain, misery, conflict, and suffering. By returning to his father's home, the boy hoped to at least obtain a job in his father's household. The boy realized that even the least of his father's servants had a richer lifestyle than the life that the prodigal son had self-created. The boy felt he had no right or expectation to be restored to his former glory. He also realized that he had self-created a mess for himself that only had himself to blame for his misadventure. The boy was stunned to find that upon his return, the father held a great feast in the son's honor and even restored the child's inheritance that had been foolishly wasted. The son finally realized that he was the father's treasure. The father was overjoyed when the son returned to his household. The father's will had only and always been that his children be happy. The father felt complete in his children's presence. Only when his children were by his side could he see their smiling faces as he lavishly bestowed all he had upon his children. Was he truly happy? The father loved his children unconditionally. The prodigal son did not have to earn his father's love again, nor did the prodigal son have to suffer the consequences of his bad decisions to waste his inheritance on the worthless, transitory things of the egoic world. The boy merely had to forgive himself for his misdeeds and return to his father's home. There in his father's home, he once again accepted the gifts that only his father's unconditional love provide. The son saw himself as a sinner who had wasted his inheritance. The father saw the son as an explorer who had sought new adventures that would help the boy reawaken to the truth of who he really was. When the boy realized he was not of this egoic world, the father had gained a wiser son. The boy had learned the lesson of unconditional love, which is that to give is to receive. The boy forgave himself and was richly blessed with the return of his divine inheritance. He was not treated as a servant, for his inheritance could never be lost, only denied by himself alone. The prodigal son always remained his father's beloved son, with whom the father was well pleased. In our egoic world, we believe that we can harm another. When you harm another, your ego says that you have wronged them and you have sinned against that person. Your ego believes that the other party is entitled to some type of revenge, that they require that you suffer and do some type of penance in order to finally be forgiven for your sins. The ego does not realize that when you attack another, you only attack yourself, because your ego does not recognize what you are. It perceives that there are outside forces that can steal your happiness. The ego fails to realize that when you attack another, you truly only attack yourself, because your ego does not realize that what you are. Nope, because the ego does not realize what you truly are. It perceives that there are outside forces that can steal your happiness. The ego fails to realize that your divine inheritance ensures that nothing sources your experiences but you, and nothing can rob you of your inner peace unless you choose to allow it to do so. A fantasy has no ability to change reality. Your sins cannot be real if they have no ability to actually harm another. If you had dreamed you killed somebody as the dreamer, you merely need to wake up to the fact that your dream was only an illusion. Upon this realization, the suffering and punishment that you believed to be the logical consequence of your fantasy will cease to terrorize your deluded mind. You can forgive yourself and reawaken to the truth of who you really are. Because the ego believes sin is real, it also believes that salvation requires sacrifice, since a just God would require sinners to be punished. Because of this, the ego tells us that we should fear, hide, and try to avoid God's justice, which the ego believes to be our suffering and ultimate death. Since sin is not real, the suffering your ego calls for is meaningless. The ego does not want you to realize that what you perceive as an attack upon another harms no one but yourself. There is no sin, and therefore there are no consequences to fear as long as you accept the truth about yourself and see all as sinless. You are God's beloved child. In time, A Course in Miracles defines sin as your ego's belief in lack. This belief in lack leads to your egoic belief that there are outside forces that can impact or change what you really are. Because the ego believes that sin is real, it also maintains that there are victims and victimizers. This is not really the case. We're all willing volunteers. You are like the prodigal son that wishes to have experiences so that you can ultimately rediscover the truth of who you really are and reclaim your divine inheritance. Let's take a minute and get connected back down to Mother Earth. Take a minute to receive this message. Take it to heart. Today we're reminded that our mistakes were really a misjudgment in our own mind. Mistakes are just a tiny little mistake. God's will for me is perfect happiness. It's super important that you get this. Understanding what salvation truly means. It's here on earth. The whole beginning part of this lesson spent 3 or 4 paragraphs in trying to make this point. The sin we were taught about isn't real. The sin we were taught about was just something so that people could kind of have a little control over us, maybe train us in how to survive in a dog-eat-dog world. But we don't really live in a dog-eat-dog world. It just looks like it. We don't really live in a world of duality. It just looks like it. We don't live in a world where God is going to just share the blessed heaven with just a couple of people who manage to never ever make a mistake in their whole entire life. It really wouldn't make any sense for us to have a God that did stuff like that. We would never want to be loyal to a God like that. Fear not the will of God. Turn to it in confidence that it will set you free from all consequences. Sin has wrought in feverish imaginations. Today, the phrase we'll come back to is, God's will for me is perfect happiness. There is no sin because it has no consequence. Today, let's have a practice period at the threshold of every hour. Right now is 7:04 a.m. We just passed the hour. So we've got one down and taken care of for the day. Come back to this phrase. I'll post it in the chat. We'll put it in the Facebook group. I might get it tattooed on the inside of my eyelids. God's will for me is perfect happiness. This is the truth because there is no sin. Those 5 minutes that you do once an hour, just at the end of the hour or the beginning of the hour, or right over the change of the hour. Today, this will help you escape from the madness that most people perceive in this world. Today, you're set on freedom's road, and now today's idea brings wings to speed you on and hope to go still faster to the waiting goal of peace. There is no sin. Remember this today and tell yourself as often as you can, God's will for me is perfect happiness. This is the truth because there is no sin. And that is our quick meditation for this morning. I have to bring my kids to school in about 10 minutes. So I want to say good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I truly, truly appreciate it. It makes a huge difference having people to read for. Dad and I have been reading this book for the last 6 years. And about a year ago, we came in the clubhouse and started reading in here. Over the summer, on July 4th, we started reading the text, finished it up at the end of last year, and started on the lessons. So today's the 101st day of the year, and we did lesson 101. Tomorrow, I'll be here to do 102. I'd love for you to join me. I started about 6:30, and I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. You're welcome to come up and share. I know there's other rooms and stuff going on. If you got to go about your day, have a wonderful day.
Well, this lesson here just really is stating that we're our own worst judge and jury, and that it's this belief, and it's our own egoic belief that we've done something wrong, that we've taken this uh, dimension of time and space to be our reality, that we are the body, and therefore we have harmed someone, that we need to do penance, and that it's our own, uh, I'll call it superconscious, that has slipped into that egoic belief, and therefore we hold ourselves guilty. And so, for many people, their problem in uh, dealing with life is their inability to forgive themselves for their past, and they continue to drag their past into the present, which prevents them from actually moving beyond and absorbing their life lesson that that past was designed to teach. So if we look at it as the idea that rather than an earner, we're a learner, uh, when we go through a process, we learn something. When we believe that we're an earner that needs to have a predetermined result, if we don't get that result, then we feel that we failed, or depending on the circumstances, that we've sinned or harmed another or ourselves, and therefore we have to do some type of punishment. And it's not God that punishes us, it's our own egoic belief that we have to balance those scales. So we're the keeper of our own karmic keys, and that means that we can forgive ourselves and escape this blame, shame, and guilt game that we, uh, tend to live out in this time-space continuum. Thank you.
That game sucks, man. I hate that game. The blame, shame, and guilt game. It's the worst game we play. Mm-mm-mm. Well, my friends up here, Tamara, Louisa, Andy, Stella, Michael. Hi, Rosa. Good morning. I hope you're having a great morning. We had a great reading this morning. It was all about our crazy, deluded minds, because God's will for me is perfect happiness. Nothing other than perfect happiness.
Somebody told me the other day, um, someone I'm very close to, that he hadn't told me what had just happened in his life, which was that his sister passed away, because he saw that I was on a real, quote unquote, real spiritual high, unquote. And my response to that is guess what, everybody? This is not about getting a parentheses temporary end parentheses spiritual high. This is about just continuing to walk up our own mountain, to learn more about who we are and to enjoy who we are. This lesson today gives us some very good, excuse me, some very good ways to think about how that is. Most people do think that this is a spiritual high and oh, he'll get over it. But I keep going, and Lee keeps going in spite of any appearances to the contrary.
Well, we sure wouldn't want to stop him from coming in. If we stopped
Well,
doing what we're doing, we wouldn't get all these miracles.
they miracles abound, and it's really fun to just call them out, and also to explain that miracles don't happen in a vacuum or a tunnel or a little corner or a closet. Miracles that happen affect everyone connected to the people for whom the miracles are given. Everybody gets a piece of this action, so to speak. And it's a beautiful thing. Um, I was in Liberia for a whole week and I survived. I didn't have any mosquito bites or anything else like that. On the other hand, when I came back into a yellow world full of the worst pollen I've ever seen. And that is what took my voice down about 3 octaves. And I'm getting out of it. I haven't had one of these um, attacks like this in many years. And the simple reason is that I was in Liberia, which has no smog, which is beautifully clear skies all the time, except when they have their rainy season, which starts on April 15th. I got back just in time. But it's beautiful over there. The air is clear, the sun is bright. And I think because of that, I probably have suffered from this, excuse me, this yellow stuff more than I ever had before because it was just such a shock to my system. But yeah, I'm on a spiritual high because that's the way life is. I just happened to have taken a bunch of revolutions around that mountain and I got up there. Why in the world would I want to come down when it's not about an unreal situation? It's about a more real grasp of what life really is all about. When we give away the ridiculous idea, which many religions have fostered for personal gain, frankly, that sin is real and we sinned and only they, fill in the blank, can absolve us of our sin, we give into a ridiculous notion if you really look at that. I don't mean to denigrate anyone else's faith. I just say that the idea that we are sinners doesn't work, and that the idea that is presented here, and it's the only place I've seen it done quite like this, is just incredible and freeing, and it's real. It's really true. Try it out. I'm sure other people that want to share on this too. So thank you very much for listening. Come on, Rosa. You got both of those revolvers stacked with bullets. You got stuff to tell us. Stella, so good to see you.
You know something? I do have a question, and I don't know if it was ego, if it was fear, or whatever that was stopping me from asking. So I'm just gonna ask it. I was in a meeting yesterday, and we were talking about specialness, special relationships, um, and a statement was made, in between that, and that's what I'm trying to figure out if this just pertained to special relationships or what. But you know, um, the lesson that says that we're never as upset for the reason we think, and the statement was made, just like how you're never happy for the reason you think, and that kind of struck me a little bit, So I asked the question. I was like, well, if you can explain that, I'd appreciate it. And basically, we started to talk about. We had a little conversation about like what is happiness, right? And and what I had gotten from it, from the conversation, because I can't really remember it, the whole thing. Forgive me for that, but it kind of made me think about what is happiness, and and I got from it that I really don't know what that is. I don't. Um, I know things that make me happy, but it seems to come from the ego, happiness, right? My identification with happiness. Start to kind of think about some of the things that made me happy, and yeah, I'm starting to question these emotions because happy is an emotion, and the goal is really peace. Like when I compared it to for myself. So I don't know if I'm making any sense or not, um, but that has me questioning like, what is happiness? Is happy and it, come from the ego? I imagine that it could come from the ego, right? Um, because everybody has their own, um, hmm, their whole, their own ideal in terms of like what makes them happy. Peace seems to be at another level, and it's not really happy. You know, maybe joy. I don't know. Can somebody speak to that if you understand what I'm saying?
Well, my friend, I'm searching right now because I'm all about etymologies. So I was searching the etymology, and it says in Spanish is felicidad. Sometimes I find more like deep meaning when I search for the etymology in Spanish, but I'm gonna say it first in English maybe. Uh, Pleasant and contented mental state. Etymology origin. Let me see this one. Happy. Let me see this. Like, it has to be. Oh my God.
But
Look.
but the lesson says perfect happiness,
Yeah,
right?
but you
The
know
lesson
what?
says perfect because happiness is just
Yeah.
like if
you
I'm
can you can
happy, that means there's an
yeah, you can
opposite.
change the perfect if it's really like bugging word, you can change it like with complete or non-dual happiness. I mean, you cannot have happiness if you have a little bit of fear or anger or any other feeling. Perfect happiness is just happiness, completely holy, and no excuses and no other things around it, you know? And in the etymology in Spanish, because the English part of it, I don't seem quite to find it a deep meaning, it says that comes from fecundo, that it's like shoot. Let me find the word in English.
Fertility.
Fertility. Thank
Fertility.
you. Fertility. Fertility. Abundant. Rich. Like filius. It comes from those roots. Hijo. Like son. Like full. And they are all rooted to the Indo-European word like amamantar. It's like breastfeeding. For some reason, it's being full or being like really complete or let me say this word. I'm sorry. It's just that I got confused here with all the noise. Fertile, fertile. It's being fertile. Happiness is being fertile. It's being abundant. It's being uh, yeah.
May I say something? I think that it's something that it doesn't occur. It's a feeling, okay, that doesn't come from an occurrence outside circumstances, or what we think is coming from outside. It's like an internal, a place of internal joy. Because if it's a happiness, it's fleeting. If it's a happy, like the meaning of happiness is quite fleeting when it's in the ego point of view, because something is creating, you think something outside of you is creating that happiness. Then when you think it's lacking, you're not happy. So that's something that is not really real. But joy is like there. It has nothing to do with an occurrence. It's just consistency of a state of being. I mean, that's what I would say. That's my interpretation.
And in English, it says that it's a chance person, luck, fortune, fate, and the suffix I. Well, it says that it's full of characters by, like fate, fortune, on good luck, something like that. It's the etymology in English. It's funny. It's funny because it has a little bit of difference there, but it in the both senses, it tends to go to the meaning of being full, complete, or yeah, without lackness of anything.
I think that happiness is a little difficult here for some of us because there are other people who have, let's just say, in a comical way, nefarious purposes in life, and they seem to be happy. Ha 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 ha. And I've taken this country, and I'm going to take two more countries next week, and so on. You know, the emperor who is happy and fiddles and so on and so on, and it's been used, and it does describe a happiness that they're getting. So what could that be? Well, they're feeling fulfilled. They're feeling that what they wanted to do, they've done. So they're happy. All right. Now, what about the people who are just seem to be happy and haven't done anything? Well, I don't know about those. However, I can say this, that as we walk up the mountain, we go around and around. We don't go straight up this mountain that each of us has in front of us. When we reach a certain plateau, when we look down, see what we've done, see what has happened, it makes us happy. I've got this far. Now I look up and I've got more to go, and that may not make me happy at the moment. So happiness is fulfilling some more immediate purpose, whether it was good or bad. Sometimes it could make one happy. The other kind of happiness is a serene kind of happiness. It's the kind of, and I have to say it, and she's flashing right now. Pardon me, pun. Rose's face just makes me happy. I just look at that face on my phone, and that makes me happy because I know that she's walking the same kind of path we're all walking, and she has been fulfilled. And that fulfillment of the goal is like a completion. It seems to be an emotion that comes with having completed some cycle of action, something that we worked for, and it's good. It could be because the people we're with make us happy. There's a lot of things like that, so it can be a very instantaneous thing. Is it continuous? Is the real question. Is does this happiness stay with us? Because remember, when we were reading the earlier lessons, there was a phrase that was used: would you rather be happy, or would you, let's see, oh, another person was arguing with you, and you would, in order to get out of it, you would say, you can be right, I'll be happy. And that is something that is used, so to speak, when you're being bullied. So you can even be happy when you're being bullied. I don't think that's the kind of happiness that Stella was asking about. It's a really great question, but I think,
Yeah, because yeah, thank you, Bob, because that happiness, because my interpretation, I need, Holy Spirit to reinterpret that for me, because happiness for me, my life living at this walk down these streets here on this earth, the happiness that that I equate with is absolutely outside myself. So thanks for that. The conversation is good because it definitely has to do with out, but peace is different, and actually I have mistaken peace for boredom. So I need all of these words reinterpreted for me, because happiness could lead to addiction, like that. when I think of being
Amen.
happy, I think of an emotion that like I need more, you know, and it's definitely fading, you know, but
But
the
when,
course is
but if
talking about perfect happiness, right?
mm,
So and
it's
that
Yeah.
hits me different. Perfect
but
happiness.
I,
perfect
I think
happiness.
that yeah, I think that you've got to realize that happiness is perhaps maybe a bad word to use in reference to this because there's so many different things that we think make us happy, and after we've got them, we realize that they didn't. So happiness, I would prefer to have said what we really want. We don't want to be happy. What we want is inner peace. Inner peace is being in alignment with what you truly are and living the principles that you've chosen to guide your life. Hopefully, those would be the higher principles because that's what you really are. But this idea of happiness that we have because we misperceive what we are, we believe that if we, because we come out of this idea that we lack, that we're not perfect, whole, and complete, that we need something outside of ourselves to make us happy. Those things there, especially with the way the laws of chaos work, we believe to have happiness, we typically have to take it from someone else. And so often what we call happiness turns out to be misery. So what we're really, I think, looking for is inner peace,
What, honey?
which is the
What happened?
alignment of living with your within your principles and being that true
Oh,
self. Thank you.
Yes, I totally agree. Thank you.
yeah.
Yes, yes, it's more peace.
You
It's
put
not
them in one of
happy.
those
That word
things.
is
I saw them
triggering.
in one of those, in one of these things that you have. I'm sorry, I was with my mic on. Sorry, I was about to say that if you are full, I mean, if the word happiness, it's rooted with the idea of full, being full, whole, complete, or fertile. What is that you are being fertile? I mean, you're fertile with all the content of God. And if you are full, why would you need anything at all? Happiness is really, I mean, now that I'm seeing the etymology of the word, happiness is just being really content with everything because you don't need anything else. I mean, if you really consider the idea that happiness is not just a state of mind of being in laughter or with this sensation of excitement all the time, you will be content even if you don't feel like in the peak of the joy or on the lowest of the sadness, because you will understand that even if it is up or down, it's just the same thing but from different perspective, and you never feel in lackness. Being full, consider yourself full, it's really like a knowing that no matter what, you are part of this entire energy, and you don't get to see it right now. If you are in the low moment, you don't get to see it right now, but you get to be really okay. I mean, and that will bring you, of course, a little bit of, I don't want to use the word, but I'm going to use it. That will bring you a little bit of happiness. Because if you really force your mind and you do your work on um, really seeing or asking for the view, you will always have some idea, something will happen outside of you that will show you that that is the only truth. So if you are full, why would you need anything at all? That is happening.
Hey,
Pardon, that it's happiness. I'm sorry.
you
That
just
it's happiness.
you just
Happiness.
nailed it. You just nailed it. The happiness has more to do with something happening outside of us than a condition of what's inside of us. Because frankly, Lee knows I can eat a quart of ice cream and be very happy, but it's outside of me. Well, that's inside of me, but what it does is cloud the realities of my life, and I don't really see things. Happiness is not deep, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So I can be happy with surface things, but the thing I think we're all looking for, and you're trying to get to, Stella, is is that the same thing as a serenity, as a deep peacefulness? The answer is no, because sometimes that happiness is simply clouding over something that is not particularly in our best interest. That would be my take on it. But I'll bet Rosa is just dying to get on this topic.
No, I'm not really dying to get in this topic. I'm really not. However, and I really can't stay. I can only listen. My what aunt woke up early this morning in pain. So let me say this: in the course in miracles, there are a number of writings about happy and happiness for both the teacher and the student, and it's really too many to. And I've never really questioned it. Um, but it does state that somewhere along the line, we can perceive happy as being egotistical. It also states that the knowledge and connection, and these are not the words, the not happy, being happy is having that connection with God, the Holy Spirit, releasing all the negative nonsense or the preconceived ideas that we have been taught, because it is in connection with feeling. So I would suggest those people that are looking for the true meaning of happiness is to go back to the reading and read some of them, because it's like, and I have forgotten how the course actually states or where you can find it, and I've forgotten what the T14 statement means. It's really the idea that when you press that, when you put in happiness for teachers, it comes up with a lot of readings. Of course, you know, the course gives you the statement, but if you press the statement, it will give you the full meaning of happiness. So I can't read them because when I typed in happiness, there were 340 results. And that was just in the teacher book alone. Um, that's in the teacher's manual. 314 different statements and readings about happiness and the meaning of happiness. It also goes in the same direction when you go to the student manual. Um, it will give you those concepts.
Yeah, but in fact, it's funny because even in those small sentences that the web page of A Course in Miracles shows, it's really like the inspiration to have a whole corrected idea of happiness. It starts like, for example, to heal is to make happy. Then it shows to be wholehearted, you must be happy. To perceive yourself this way is the only way in which you can find happiness in the world. A
Now
son of
remember,
God is happy only when he
remember,
knows he's
Adriana,
with
that
God.
is only one statement. When you press
Yeah, I
that
know.
statement, it
I know.
gives you
No,
the
no, I
full
know. I
meaning.
know. But
Okay.
what I'm saying, I know. But what I'm saying is that if you go through the search results, like in those few sentences, there's a lot of wisdom too. You don't need to go like in the deep chapter of one of them, because it is really like pieces or nuggets of meaning in that single word, that it refers as well to the idea of feeling whole, complete, full, and that's the only way. I mean, perfect happiness is really understanding that you don't lack anything, that there's no separation at all, that everything is within you, and that you are inside of you fully complete, and there's nothing outside that can make that a different reality. I mean, you can perceive with your eyes everything separated, but within yourself, everything is one, and everything is full, and everything is part of the same source. So, if you are full, why would you need anything at all? Why? I mean, it's it's it will it will bring you back again to the simple idea of separation. That if you think that
Pretty much.
happiness is something outside, then you are again in the egoic mind or the tiny mad idea mind or whatever. Happiness, it is part of the attributes of being one with the source. But of course, that achieve that in one single day, it's really a work of titans, because we are in this perception of reality that it's a separation idea. So it's really hard. So that then is when I come back to the other things that we have been discussing in other form, that it's not about being perfect, because you are perfect. It's how you make progress on remembering that you are perfect. So if you get caught in the idea of perfect happiness, it's not for you to achieve perfection on happiness. It's for you to make progress on remembering that inside of you, you are full of the energy of God. You all single cells, all single cells in your body are made from the source energy of God. I don't know if I say that right, but it's the idea that you don't need to be perfect because you are already perfect. It's just that you are remembering that's the progress that you need to make every single day. How you come back to the idea that you already are perfect happiness within you. How can you just remember that despite anything that you are facing in your pseudo reality, if you want to say it like that, you know? If the fearful situation comes in, how do you move from fear to love, from fear to joy, from fear to calm or peace? Peace will bring you happiness, because peace, in fact, will give you the serenity just to reflect the light of God. Peaceful, it's being really calm, really unbreakable in any situation, even if it is the highest happiness or excitement or the lowest depression or sadness. So peace is being neutral. When you're neutral, you get to reflect the entire light of God, and that, of course, will bring happiness to you and others, because you will not show yourself being a victim or being the victimizer of anything. You know, who is with the mic on? Rosa, Rosa.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Tamara.
Hi. Um, I'm interested in this conversation about happiness, and I just wanted to say I'm not sure if you guys mentioned it or not, but I think it's part of what you guys have been talking about. But there's this idea in the Indian uh, texts about being beyond, reaching that state beyond pleasure and pain, and I, and it's also this state beyond the opposites, right? So duality is the opposite. But I mean, happiness and unhappiness are opposites, right? So it's like, um, just in terms of Stella's question, how can, I can't remember the exact question, but I was in the room yesterday when that, when that question came up. But this idea of, somehow, I can't remember but something like happiness being something also in something that you're is limiting in some way, and I think it's just in my sense of it is just in terms of it being a part of that pair of opposites, because and I think as you guys have said, like when you when you have happiness, you can lose your happiness, you can have unhappiness, and I think the the state that we're, or the experience of the oneness with God that we're practicing in the course is um, a state where those, those fluctuations of mind, happy, unhappy, I have something, I don't have something, this is good, this is painful, um, all of those are in some ways witnessed. And then the state of joy, I mean, you can call it happiness too, you can call it anything, but it's not the same happiness as the opposites. And that state of joy is in some ways untouchable by that, right? Like those are states of mind that come and go, states of the body that come and go, whereas God, the consciousness, the one consciousness, uh, never goes, right? And it is that, it's like, I think we had the conversation in the room already about how, there's light and dark, but then when you turn on the light, the dark just goes away, right? It's like when there's when there's the when the light is shining at its full extension, there is no light and shadow, right? That opposite doesn't exist. So it's just the light that's beyond the opposites. In some ways, maybe sometimes in the Course, happiness that's referred to is the happiness that's beyond the opposites, and sometimes maybe the happiness that's referred to is the happiness that's part of that pair, that's transient. I'm complete with that. Thanks.
Thank you,
Yeah, I
Donna.
could see. Yeah, thank you for that. Because yeah, like okay, so to be happy that because when I think of like holy instances that I've had, right, like the miracles that have happened in my life, the change of perception is so drastic that I'm happy. You know what I mean? That it brings me that sense of like, almost like awe. Like wow, like I really could have been here. I really was thinking that. And now I see the light. I'm happy because it makes me laugh. It literally makes me laugh, like with happiness that I didn't go down that path, right? But the feeling afterwards really isn't happiness, it's peace. It's peace that brings peace, to understand that I didn't have to think that way, that I was saved from hell, basically. You know what I mean? But to live my life in search of happiness, no. Absolute no. I mean, not how I interpret it. Like I said, I'm at the state now where I'm reinterpreting all of these words and stuff like that. But I'm glad because I've only paid attention to it yesterday. Like I've read these lessons, practiced them. And I think at that particular point when I was practicing them, I didn't understand that. And I was looking for happiness. And when I wasn't there, right? You know what I mean? I was like, what's going on? I'm not happy. I just am, so I think everything comes in time, you know. This is a talking app. We're talking, certain things are beyond words, and it really doesn't need to be explained that deep, especially too, like if I feel it, so I think I think I have a better understanding of it. And the reason why I mentioned it was because, we just had the conversation yesterday, and then I come and I look at the lesson, and it kind of had me, you know, had me a little surprised. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. You know, it said that, you know, God's plan is perfect happiness. And I just, and I didn't, and I left out that part perfect, so thank you for the conversation. Thank you so much.
And thank you for bringing the topic. I'm really glad because that is the way that I also like find more meaning and readjust my concepts in my mind about those simple words that we always like take for granted in some form, but then when you go a little bit deeper, you really give the right order to the idea in your mind, and it clicks differently for your circumstances. I was having yesterday a moment as well of a fearful moment, you know, and I really just apply the concepts of the course, and And Lee, it's always funny because Lee always gave me these kind of invitations. He doesn't suggest that I should do this or I should do that. He always just said like, well, I'm gonna if I'm still like caught up with the fearful ideas, he just leaves me with the invitation like, well, when you finish your writing to your ex-husband to say whatever you need to say, I will wait for you downstairs for us to have a beautiful Sunday or whatever with the kids, and he lets me be. And then I kept with my mind like going around the things that I need to express, but just in order for me to really like just let the thought away from myself and be able to move back to the moments that are really in my hands right now to control or to have, that it's really happiness. I mean, that really a happy moment. So when you find yourself in a kind of rhythm that works for you, and you on top of that ask the help and the guidance and the inspiration from the Holy Spirit, it doesn't matter that you are not happy in the moment, but you always will find the way, the tools, the thoughts that will get you out of that idea, of that fearful ideas, or at least it will give you time to let more things happen or present itself in front of you instead of just pushing things on having them on your way. Yesterday, I had to really again surrender my control because I was having a moment of anger again because I wasn't able to have contact with my daughter when she requested it, and I started to get mad and angry. But then I realized that whatever I was writing to him is a talking with myself. So at the end of what I was uh, uh, writing to him, I said to him, you know what? I'm gonna stop asking you or stop giving you like my hey, I'm here, so you can flow with your day, and I will give you the opportunity to show me your true intentions with all of this, because I'm not seeing it clearly and I want to see it clearly. So I'm gonna stop being so like present in your chat for you to be aware that I'm here and that I'm waiting, and I'm gonna let you show me that you can do this, because right now it's not so clear for me, and I'm going to trust God that you will show me your truth in the highest possible way. And I stopped writing to him, and I went on with my day with the kids here with Lee, and we have a great day. And at the end of the night, Vera connected with me. We have like a full hour of conversation. She was happy. They were having like a rough day because, well, something happened with my ex-husband and some partner of his, but it has nothing to do with the little one. So she was really well taken care of. I mean, she was really okay, and we get to see each other. And she said, I always end my calls with her at night, asking her to tell me what is she grateful for. And she said last night, well, I'm grateful because I saw you in the morning, because I talked to you right now, because I have you here in my heart. She started to say all the things that are really reassuring me that she is getting the idea that we are not separated at all. We are just changing the way we connect to each other. And she showed me I have a mole in my chest that she always loved to touch with her little finger. And she started to grow the same mole in her chest too. So she showed me her mole and she said, and you are here. And she pointed at her own mole. And I was saying, oh my God, yes, that's it. I'm there. I'm really there. So I get to see at the end of the day, the happiness that I needed to have from her and from this kind of new engagement that I have with my daughter, at the end of the day, I get to see it because I really did my homework of letting go the control of how I think it should be, and I let others just to go with the flow and trust God. I was really fearful yesterday because I really had to argue with him and said to him, "It's not when you want it; it's when she wants it. If she's asking you to connect her with me, you don't get to say no. You need to find. I mean, it doesn't take any time from you. You just put the iPad, and she will just receive my call. That's all." And that was at the beginning of the day, so I really was in fear. And then I figured that what I was telling to him, I was really in need to tell it to myself. It's not when you want it, Adriana, it's when she wants it. And she will show, and she will be connected with you if you trust God. And I let go everything in the same conversation that I was having through the chat, and it all happened well. I mean, it all went through well. At the end of the day, we get to see her. She was happy. She got to see Lee as well. Lee was making all these funny faces to her, and I get to show her something that Grace did for her, a drawing that Grace did for her. Grace is the girl from Lee's daughter. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful at the end of the day when I let go the control again and give it back to God. So happiness is trusting that. I mean, you will not see it maybe in the exact moment that you are catching yourself in the ego thoughts, but if you do this practice, you will find it sooner than later. In fact, you will find it soon, and it will get faster with time. When you practice and practice and practice this, you will see it faster. So I wanted to share that because maybe it's a practical way to know that you are really full, complete.
Adriana, I love the way you think out loud. You share with us the process that you go through, and it's beautiful because you're always trying to get to the right part of the story or the correct definition. And it's a beautiful thing to watch you think because you share it with us. It really is. I love it. It's great. I think that one other thing that I picked up while I was listening to other people is that I know that when I'm waiting in a line at a restaurant for my table, for example, and the person in front of us has a little child, maybe a 2-year-old, 3-year-old that they're holding, or maybe either up in their arms or maybe at the floor that they're standing. Um, Usually I try and play a little bit and make something. I have a tendency I just want to make them smile. And I think that's part of the happy also. It really is a temporary, momentary, instantaneous almost thing. It's not something you can go back and forth between happiness and sadness pretty quickly. It's not the kind of serenity that I think many of us are looking for. Um, but it's nice when you have it, but it's not so much required unless you get what the book has told us this morning, which is perfect happiness. And to me, that would mean continuous happiness. And I think that comes pretty close to a serenity, a peacefulness, a joy. Perfect happiness would be the way I would define joy. And so I don't know if we've picked this one to death or not, but it's been fun to talk about it. And I don't know if there's anything else that anyone would like to bring up or expound more on what is happening.
What about unconditional happiness? What about that?
Well, it should be unconditional, in fact. because if you think it through, you will not feel happy if it is unconditional. If you have some attachment, any attachment to the level of the form, or some way, I mean, if you have any attachment to the level of the form, or a process that you think that it should be in this order and there's no other thing that could work, then you are not feeling full. You're thinking from lackness, that I mean, you're thinking from your self, lower self, not from the higher self, because the higher self and the love of God will always have solutions in so many ways, and it's so abundant that there's no way that you can feel unconditional. I mean, you can, I mean, if you are happy, really a happy person, you will feel that it has to be unconditional. I mean, how can you have a condition to be happy if that's what you are really? You just remembering that you are that already. So it's nothing that you need to gain. It's something that you need to remember that you are. So it's unconditional, no matter what. Happiness will be always there whenever you wanted to remember, whenever that you wanted to really disbelieve a little bit what you see with your eyes, and the fearful feelings, and just question them a little bit, and you will see a glimpse of that happiness within you, because it has always been there. Yesterday something happened to me again, now that you said that about unconditional happiness. Yesterday we were we were building this kind of bookshelf in one of our walls here in the apartment with Lee, and we were tired. We were trying to make it fast because the kids were getting bored, and we were just trying to finish this task. And we were working without the measured tape or whatever, and we were just like really in a rush, I guess. And we were using like other kind of tools to have the level, have the shelf being leveled, uh, the one that was going to be on top of the other one. So we were doing that, and as we weren't like in sync and at peace, we were just in the rush of the moment. Lee was trying to get this book really, uh, how do you say, when you need to force things to be in a position, and I was having my fingers in the middle of it, and he bumped the book and he just smashed my finger, and I was and I just went upstairs because I didn't want it to just have a reaction on him, because I know that he didn't do it on purpose, but I was mad. So I felt mad, so I went upstairs and I sat down. And I sat down and I didn't feel the pain. I wasn't even feeling pain. I was just doing like some kind of tantrum, because I was with my mind in my conflict with the situation of my daughter. And I was using this situation now to engage again with the anger. And so I sat down and I was looking through the window, and I was telling myself, well, it didn't really hurt that much. Well, he didn't mean to. So why I want to get mad at him if he didn't do it this on purpose? I don't want to fight him. What is this? I started to question that, and it really hit me like in the bottom of my heart. I started to feel like that little like ticklish happiness, like yeah, you're fine. Yeah, everything's gonna be fine. You just are in a fearful moment, and you don't remember that this is what it's really good about your new life with him. You're building this with him, and he listens to you, and you're doing this together, and you're working like a team to build this bookshelf. So why the hell do you want to be angry at him? And I said, no, I don't want to be angry at him. And I was seeing through the window the landscape, and I was saying, my God, this is so beautiful. And out of the sudden, I really just remained there with my thoughts, and I knew, and I remember the other part of the book that says you're never mad for the things that you think they're mad. So I started my mind started to fill the gaps with all the concepts of the book, and with all the idea of really everything is good, Adriana. Nothing happened. And then Lee came upstairs, and he just, I'm sorry. And I said, no, you did nothing wrong. I mean, really, don't worry. Let's finish this. And he said, can we finish this? And I was, yeah, but it's just that you you're doing this like with strength, and there's so many things that doesn't require strength. And he said, yeah, I didn't understand. And I was like trying, and then he said,
Instead of taking us to the nigger joint, and there's another place right up here, not too far from the house there, between
okay, who's somebody
three.
wants to wait, it's Rosa with her mic. So
I
I
have
was,
something.
I'm okay. So that I'm gonna finish this because I know I'm taking too long. And that happened yesterday, but the happiness was already there. I never had that experience before. So as the happiness is really within us, you need to force yourself to the idea that it has to be unconditional. You don't get attached to the idea that you know how to do things, or that the things that you need are in a specific form. For example, if you want a car and you need and you get yourself attached that it has to be this car because I love this car, and this brand. Yeah, you can ask God for that, but you need to detach from that. And so any attachments on your mindset to the level of the form or to any thought process will close the door for you to feel the happiness that is within you. So happiness should be unconditional, and it is hard because the ego is so um, um, is so wise on giving you well, it's not wise, but it's so really like good in giving you the idea that you know how to do things, and give give you the idea that you need to control the way it should be, that it's really hard to feel the happiness within you. But in fact, it is every
I,
time that you
I
question
just
yourself.
wanted to jump in. I don't want to cut you off, Adriana. It's just that I got to hit the road, and I apologize. I missed the reading this morning. Not apologize, but just unfortunately I missed it. But I
It's
caught
okay.
enough of this that I love the topic, and I realized yesterday, we can, because this is all mind stuff, that we can, when we get better mind control, mind discipline, we can talk ourselves into happiness. I know yesterday I was kind of in a funk, and I realized when I got right down to it, it's just because I hadn't been getting enough sleep. I've been binge watching on Netflix. So when I don't get enough sleep, I get cranky. And I was just cranky. And then this was bothering me and that was bothering me. And I asked myself, well, what is it? What's going on here? And I did what Abraham is always talking about. I said, go take a nap. Just go take a nap. So I went to take a nap. And boy, oh boy, did the sun come out for me. It was like such a difference. And I felt happy when I woke up. I felt joyful. I felt at peace. I remember I turned and I think even before I got the nap, though, the cat had come upstairs, our little kitten or a young cat, and she just did something really simple. And I felt that little glimmer of like, ooh, I felt a smile come across my face. And we could talk ourselves into happiness, I realized. We could talk ourselves into higher states of consciousness, and then let go and connect and just let the spirit work through us. And that happened for me yesterday. So that's all I wanted to add. And good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody.
Oh, thank you. That is beautiful because that's a simple practice in this lesson. Yeah, that's it exactly. And it in fact the unconditional part of it is not for you to be unconditionally happy to others. Is that you need to think unconditionally that you are happy within you, and you just sometimes don't remember it. Sometimes your ego gets in the way, because if happiness is being full, fertile, whatever it is, that's just that our condition in spirit, and in the spirit is where all the truth is. The rest is just the level of the form that is a perception.
Yeah. And just like you did, Adriana, like Bob
Yeah.
says, I love how you talk us through your mind,
I'm sorry that it
the
takes
way you're thinking,
for
and I
those
love that
words.
because that's what it's all about. Is really everybody doing that. You can talk yourself out of a lot of situations. You know what I mean? Even sometimes when you think, because it's always about your thinking. That's it. You know. So, but everybody have a beautiful day, and thanks for
You
letting me have
too,
a word.
Janine. Thank you for those beautiful words too.
You're welcome. Love you guys.
I love you too. Thank you. There's anybody want? Does anybody wants to share something more? Stella, are you okay with the unconditional part of happiness now?
I looked it
You know,
up.
I wanna
Look at Planet of the Apes
I
over the
wanna
weekend.
just say that we have to remember one of the main topics of this lesson is about sin. The idea that we have been brought into a world that taught us that we are sinful people.
No, I watched. Hey, look, you watch this. We're gonna watch it together.
Rosa,
No,
you
no,
are
no,
in
no,
a
no, no. I want to talk.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking about our concept that we were intentionally made to suffer, and we have to be redeemed from this concept of sin. And in my belief, sin is just missing the mark. God gives us a point where we can make a decision and change that decision instantly. However, Christianity has taught us that we are sinful. We will always be sinful. There's nothing that we can do because we are devil makers and that were made to suffer. This is a lie. It has given us this concept of who God is, and has all the characteristics of man. Not so. So when we start talking about sin and missing the mark and changing into the belief that we are as God created us, and God created us in his almighty powerful image and can never be attacked. Once we get over that whole idea and concept, then we can then begin to see the miracle of happiness, joy, peace, love, forgiveness, all of those. After, and like Adriana said, we're on a letting go and relearning and remembering who we are and who he made us to be. So it's a process, as everyone says, but it actually starts with our belief system that we are sinful and therefore we deserve to be punished. We deserve unhappiness. We deserve all these crazy lessons that the world wants to teach us. But in fact, we have a choice as to whether or not we want to learn them, forget them, stick to them, or erase them. We have that choice. And so, in this whole process, we're only 100 lessons into relearning and remembering who we are. And like I said in the beginning, for most of our feelings and emotions, the course has a course to it. Okay.
Thank you,
So that's
Rosa.
all I
Stella,
got to say. Because
thank you,
I'm
Rosa. I love you very much. Stella, it's your turn. Stella, are you?
Hey,
Ah,
yeah, no, absolutely. And now I'm changing it now, right? Not unconditional happiness, unconditional being.
maybe the only condition, if
Unconditional,
you,
only,
yeah,
yeah, unconditional
may,
being.
yeah,
Uh,
the unconditional happiness, it is within you, but in the level of the form, it is conditional for you. I mean, happiness is conditional to let go control, conditional to let go the fear, to let go the yeah the idea of sin. So in the level of the form, of course, it will be conditional because in duality you have two options. So in the level of the form, you will always find happiness being conditional to just choose happiness. But within yourself, happiness is unconditional because it is what you are. it is a fact. There's no question that within you, within the sack of bones that you are, what there is, it's only light and joy and peace, and that will be happy. I mean, that will be like yeah, the perfect happiness, feeling full, complete, and in order. It will bring you happiness in some form because the happiness is already there. It's being engraved in your DNA already. So this is a beautiful lesson. If anybody wants to share anything else, please let me know. Flash your mic because it's already 8:12 a.m. and I know it's Monday. Everybody had things to do. We are starting the week. So I'm enjoying the conversation and I'm enjoying everything that we have been sharing. And I hope you have all a wonderful week, a wonderful Monday. Not a challenging one. There's sometimes that some lessons for me are really a challenge. Yesterday was a challenge, but it turned out being okay. And Lee and his kids really helped me a lot to have a happy day. So
Have a happy
it was
It
wonderful
was
for
such a
me.
great Sunday. I hope y'all have a wonderful one.
I agree. Everybody have a happy day today. Now that we know what it means. Thanks to Stella and Adriana and everybody else.
Well, I'm gonna say goodbye for now to everybody, but I will be holding the space. Meanwhile, you all left the room. And
Yeah, have a beautiful day, everyone.
Stella, I owe
Thank
you.
you.
I
Thank
owe
you.
you the call. I owe you the call. I'm sorry. I have to call you
No
back.
problem. No problem, my love.
I
No
love you.
problem. Anytime,
Okay.
anytime. Everybody have a
Anytime.
beautiful day.
It will
Bye
be
bye.
perfect the timing when we can a
Yes, of
call.
course.
Thank you. I
All
love
right,
you.
honey. Bye
And
bye.
Luisa too. I owe her a call too to Luisa. Goodbye, everybody.